not operational. That's the latest detail there. All flight operations are temporarily suspended until further notice. So if you were expecting to travel from that airport, we'd advise you to check with your airline. And of course, people who were expecting to land in a particular space time after taking off from this airport will also be advised to contact their loved ones and relatives and inform them. We're putting out this statement. Passengers are also advised to check with their respective airlines for the latest updates before proceeding to the airport. This is a statement that has been put out by the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport spokesperson. We also have some other news coming out that seems to tell us now a little bit more about the scenario on the ground. So this is a report that has been filed. Let's go straight across to it.
इस वक्त मैं मौके पर हूँ, ये भिखारी नगर का इलाका है। मैं कैमरामैन को बोलूँगा कि आप देखें कि यहाँ एयर इंडिया की जो टेल वो टेल यहाँ पर दिख कर आई है और सामने वहाँ पर
Well, that was one very quick overview really of the situation there. In the middle of your screens is the moment of the crash, and you can see that there was a catastrophic failure of lift moments after this plane took off. The plane would have been heavily laden with ATF given the fact that it was on a long haul flight from Ahmedabad to Gatwick, which is an airport just outside of London, and it crashed almost immediately after taking off. Even the landing gear had not been retracted on that plane, and it crashed into a very densely populated area. The exact crash site, conflicting reports once again, but we are being told was an under construction site. A building was being constructed there, and you can see in the backdrop of those pictures to the left of your screens that there is a building that stood in the way of that aircraft. The fuselage of the aircraft and the wings, etc., scattered all over a wide area. We don't know if there were casualties on the ground. This is a quick summary really of the accident. The aircraft was a Boeing 787, registration VT-ANB, which is also its call sign. It was run by Air India, of course. The flight was A1171. It was on its way from Ahmedabad to Gatwick. It had a total of 242 passengers on board, including 2 pilots and a cabin crew of 10. So passengers by themselves were 230, but 2 pilots and a cabin crew of 10. It took off at 13:39. It was delayed by a few moments. As it used runway 23 at Ahmedabad, it issued shortly after takeoff a mayday call. No response after the mayday call because, as you can imagine, there's very little response time for the pilots to take any action to avert a crisis. Let's go straight across to Anvit for more details. What can you tell us, Anvit?
We are looking forward to get details as to what happened and what transpired in this entire incident, as to understand that what actually happened because we can see clearly in the news that the flight was taken off and what the time given the time of departure. The flight took off, but the flight path, we can't see that it had good elevation as it should have had. So that also depends on a lot of factors, a lot of technical factors as well. And also the last moment conversation between the pilot and the ATC, that would also have much to reveal, because before the mayday call was made, whether there was any communication, whether the pilots had communicated any flaw or any glitch while they had taken off from Ahmedabad airport. So that will also play an important role, and the retrieval of black box certainly.
Well, one quick update. We're being told that the Union Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, will be leaving for Ahmedabad. He's expected to take off by 4 p.m. So that's a quick update for you there. Anvit, you were talking a little bit about the on-ground arrangements that are being made now to try and affect some relief. Can you give us more details on that?
So I was saying that more technical details are awaited, and that is what will actually give a clear picture as to what happened and what led to this unfortunate incident. Last moment conversation between ATC and pilot, and also the communication that was sent out by the aircraft to the ATC, and that will also have much to reveal as to what eventually happened that led to this crash. The elevation part was certainly low. The elevation was less, and that is what we can see in the visuals also. The flight was only going down; it was decreasing, and it was on decline, which is the reason why it was a residential area, and the plane has crashed out of Ahmedabad.
We're getting some details and updates. Anvit, stay on with me from Payal Mehta now on the possibility of the former Chief Minister of Gujarat being on this flight. Payal.
Rahul, the passenger list, shows unfortunately Mr. Rupani was on board and is identified as passenger number 12. We've been trying to get in touch with his family and, probably people in his office as well. But we're just given to understand that as of now, they're saying that he's badly injured. We do not know anything for a matter of, confirmation as well. But, when the passenger list was reviewed by our colleagues, including Anvit, it showed very, very clearly that he was on board on that flight. What is really happening to him right now is just a little too early to jump the gun, because obviously we'll have to wait for the confirmation coming in either from the Gujarat government or, from his family as well. But, most unfortunate episode coming to the fore, the passengers who were on board had to go to London, and frequent passengers go to London at this point in time, from Gujarat in particular. Most unfortunate thing coming to the fore, but the government of India has assured Rahul that they will get to the bottom of this, and of course that's the reason Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah, and the Gujarat Chief Minister, all three speaking to Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu. This is going to be one big challenge for him as well in his 1 year career as a Civil Aviation Minister of the country. He's been rushed in a special flight to Ahmedabad, should be landing there around 5 o'clock, is what we were given to understand, but all rescue teams have been mobilized. And he's also, made sure that the investigating teams are also mobilized and sent ASAP to Ahmedabad to figure out what really is happening. Meanwhile, the civil, department of the Gujarat government have also been on task. I'm very, very sure that Harsh Sanghvi, the Home Minister of the state, is already on the job as well. The Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, has also spoken to multiple people, including having spoken to the Commissioner of Ahmedabad as well. So that was awaited, but we confirmation on Mr. Rupani coming in either from the Gujarat government,
yes,
or his family, and we should not really speculate at this point in time about anything.
Well, Payal, the Director General of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the AAIB, with the team leaving for Ahmedabad for investigation. This is also something that we're learning from our sources at the Ministry of Civil Aviation. So clearly, in the first few hours, there has to be a thorough investigation from the ground, collecting of evidence, etc., etc. And just one hopes that the scene of the crash is not compromised. There are, of course, pictures coming in to the left and to the right of your screens of the aftermath, the devastating aftermath. In the middle of your screens, viewers, is the moment of the crash, and you can see that there was very little reaction time. Now, Payal, in a situation like this, what is the protocol that is usually followed in government? Will there be immediate meetings to determine the next steps? What exactly is on the cards?
There will be immediate meeting that's going to be there, and of course the Civil Aviation Ministry will do its own probe.
Yes.
And like you mentioned, that probe teams have been rushed as
okay.
well.
We're also being told, hold your thoughts, Payal, just hold your thoughts. I want to go straight across to Arunima for an update on the Union Home Minister Amit Shah. Yes, Arunima.
Yes, as the Home Minister Amit Shah is just flying off to Ahmedabad. He is the local member of parliament as well. And this is coming at a time when people are still speculating. These are just speculation. Nobody is confirming it as yet. But there are speculations whether this was an accident or whether this was an act of sabotage. So since he is also the Union Home Minister, both in his dual role as the Home Minister and the local member of parliament, and somebody who knows Gujarat like nobody else does, he's already spoken to the Chief Minister, and his presence there is aimed to aid rescue and relief efforts. From the central government side, if anything that the state government requires to retrieve the situation, if there are any survivors, if they need any medical aid, if they need to be flown out of Ahmedabad, taken to Bombay, taken to Delhi, whatever needs to be done, I think the best man is being put on the job by the Prime Minister. The local member of parliament, the Union Home Minister rushing to Ahmedabad, should be flying off within the hour is what we are told.
Yes, we're also being told, of course, and I just reported this, the Director General of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau with his team is leaving for Ahmedabad for an investigation. This is according to Ministry of Civil Aviation sources, because viewers, in the right aftermath of a crash, you need to sanitize and in some ways or the other ensure that the scene of the accident is, or the crash is not compromised. because there's important, very important details that emerge from there. I want to go straight across to Griha, who has a list of the passengers aboard. Our prayers, of course, with each one of them. Griha.
Distressing times, Rahul. We are only, our heart goes out for any family members who possibly are watching this. This is the list that has been, in fact, put out. It has been released, and there you can see passenger number 12. There has the former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Mr. Vijay.
क्रैश हो गई है, जिसमें प्रिलिमिनरी हमें पता चला है कि 223 जितने पैसेंजर थे यहाँ पे जिस बिल्डिंग के ऊपर गिरी है वो डॉक्टर्स का हॉस्टल है। इंसिडेंट बनने के विदिन 2-3 मिनट्स में पुलिस, बाकी सभी बॉडियां, सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, कॉर्पोरेशन वगैरह सभी लोग आ गए थे। फायर फाइटर वगैरह स्थल पे हाजिर है। लोगों को बचाने की और रेस्क्यू करने की कार्रवाई जारी है। ऑलमोस्ट 70 से 80% एरिया हमने क्लीन कर लिया, बाकी आने समय में हम लोग क्लियर कर लेंगे। मैं सभी मीडिया के मित्रों से रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं, सभी हमसे सहयोग करें। जितनी पुलिस, उसके अलावा जितनी भी एजेंसी, आर्मी, बीएसएफ, सीआईएसएफ, कॉर्पोरेशन, कलेक्टर ऑफिस के सभी स्टाफ, सभी यहाँ काम में लगे हुए हैं। प्लीज हमसे सहयोग करिए और थोड़ी सी हमारे लिए जगह बना के रखिए ताकि हम एम्बुलेंस को ग्रीन कॉरिडोर बना के हॉस्पिटल तक पहुंचा सके। थैंक यू।
We're talking about the passenger list that has been accessed by CNN News 18. We are only hoping that the family members, you are not watching, but this is the list that has been released. Here you can see passenger number 12, if we can close in on this particular list, has the former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani's name on it. It says boarded. He in fact was very much there on that flight. We do not have any details as of now from his office about Mr. Rupani's whereabouts, so we don't want to in fact draw anything up for conjecture, but this is what we are in fact seeing through this particular list that is out. Let me also give you a lowdown on the kind of people, the nationalities that they belong to, or the people, the 242 people who were on board this ill-fated flight. We are learning through this particular list, and there are nationalities here, Rahul, where we learn of many people, not just Indians but also from Britain, who were on board. They had the British passport, so about 52 British individuals were on board this aircraft. Also one Portuguese from this list that we learn of, and the rest were Indian. So this is what this list in fact lays bare, the number of passengers who have boarded, several of them also children. That's how distressing this is, because we are talking about 242 in this case, and also a statement there, confirmation that Gujarat, the former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani had boarded this particular flight.
Very, very unfortunate scenes, viewers. To the left is a flight manifesto, at least parts of it, and you can see that this was a flight that was carrying a large number of citizens from different parts of the world, including British citizens. There you can see Griha just talked us through some of those people. Let's go straight across to Yesha for more details. Yesha, what can you tell us? We know that this flight has crashed moments after it took off. We're being told that it crashed into a doctor's hostel.
Absolutely. In fact, this very flight that we speak of was an Air India flight from Ahmedabad headed towards London. It was involved in a crash shortly after the takeoff. And right outside the airport. Details emerge as to within 8 to 9 minutes of the takeoff from Sardar Vallabhbhai Airport was where the flight in fact took off, and it has in fact fallen into a residential area. All of these are preliminary details which have emerged. In fact, more details speak about how the Home Minister is also headed towards Ahmedabad to take a stock of the situation. The Prime Minister has also spoken to the Civil Aviation Minister and has asked all of them to head to Ahmedabad and to ensure all possible assistance possible. What's also important to note is that as of now, details from local sources have spoken about how there have been more than 40 bodies that have been brought to the hospital. So far, no official source has in fact gone ahead to mention as to what can be the toll here, but it seems to be a massive tragedy, particularly because so far Ahmedabad Airport has also been kept non-operational for any further flights from here on, which is where all the local authorities have been rushed to the spot, and there are expected to be more than 200 people who would have been on board that very flight. So yes, all the particular stakeholders responsible, be it the Tata Airlines or for that matter, other stakeholders, they've all been kept on tenterhooks to ensure that that those who are injured or those who were involved there, plus residents who've been injured in that very incident, are rushed to the local hospital. All the local authorities have been kept on alert. Yes.
Yeah, well, the updates that are coming in now, of course, official sources, and we're not going to, of course, play out anything that hasn't been verified. So what we're now being told is that Captain Sumit Sabharwal was an LTC with 8,200 hours of experience. The co-pilot had 1,100 hours of flying experience. As per ATC, the aircraft departed from Ahmedabad at 13:39 Indian Standard Time or 8:09 UTC from runway 23, and most importantly gave a mayday call to the ATC, but thereafter no response was given by the aircraft to the calls made by the ATC. So viewers, very little response time there. The Union Home Minister is on his way at 4 o'clock to Ahmedabad. He is also going to be overseeing the rescue and relief efforts. We know that this plane crashed almost within minutes of takeoff. You can see that it was reduced to a ball of flames, towering ball of flames. And I want to go across to Mr. Mark Martin, who's a technical expert, for more on this. Mr. Martin, catastrophic loss of lift, it would appear. Even the landing gear had not retracted. What do you make of the incident? Mr. Martin, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, thanks for having me. Well, from what we know, I think it's very, very initial, and I don't believe it's right that we speculate on this, but I think from what we know so far, this guy had about 254 passengers on board. The 787 capacity is 265, so it is almost a full aircraft. He was full with fuel and cargo. He took off. And I think what appears to be the issue here is that the power assurance that he was trying to get from both his engines, those really didn't help and support him much. So, I mean, the pilots that were flying were very qualified. They had a TRI. There was one of the pilots was a TRI, which is a examiner and instructor and a senior captain. So obviously he was well versed with the situation and knew how to deal with emergencies. So clearly, I think a full-blown investigation has to be called into this. The DGCA must be involved. The AIB should be involved. We should also get EASA and the FAA and TSB, because this is the world's first 787 crash. Never have we seen a crash. And what is worse is that the 787 has been flying with Air India for the last 15 years, and with zero incidents except for minor maintenance issues and spare parts, and this is the first time we've seen a catastrophic event after the takeover of Air India by Singapore Airlines. So clearly there has to be a holistic investigation into the entire incident and event, and we need to get to the bottom of this, because this is going to send a rippling message to the world on the efficacy and safety of the 787, which has been one of the safest aircraft ever produced by Boeing.
So are you saying that there has been no crash prior to this of this particular airline? Is that what you're saying?
This particular aircraft, the 787 Dreamliner, 787
sorry, what I meant was the aircraft, yes. Yep.
Yes, the 787-Dreamliner, this aircraft, there has never been a crash ever. Even when this aircraft was operated by Air India and the Government of India management, the 787 performed beautifully for Air India, because Air India was the launch customer for the 787 and it had error-free flying. Sure, there were maintenance issues, there were groundings, but back then this aircraft was one of the best, and it still is. It still is a technology trendsetter.
Well,
so clearly,
let me just hold on, Mr. Martin. I'm also being joined by Mr. Devesh Agarwal, who's an aviation minister. I would like, aviation expert. I want you to stay on with me. I want to also bring in Mr. Agarwal and involve him in this conversation. You've probably seen the pictures, Mr. Agarwal. They obviously tell a catastrophic story, horrific story, heart-sinking visuals. Moments after takeoff, the plane loses what appears to be power and crashes into a very densely packed residential slash habitated area right outside the perimeter of the airport. What do you make of this? What's your assessment, preliminary assessment?
Let me first preface by offering my deepest condolences to the families of the bereaved and my prayers that they find survivors. In fact, my cousin sister works in the civil hospital where the aircraft crashed. She was unable to talk because there was quite some smoke. She was telling me that there is a student hostel immediately adjacent to the building in which the aircraft crashed, and there are students who are not accounted for. So again, prayers that they have not been victims of this crash and they may have just stepped out of the building. So that is where I'm going to preface it. I was listening to what Mark was saying. Yes, this is the first quote unquote accident. There have been, I'm not sure if there has been a hull loss earlier due to the grounding. For sure, India's AAIB, Air Accidents Investigation Board, will be involved. And from the United States, you will get the NTSB because it is the aircraft is made in the United States. I don't see EASA playing any role because they are the European regulator. Definitely there will be representatives from Boeing and from GE because this was a Gen X engine. The launch customer was All Nippon Airways I forget the exact date, but they used the Rolls-Royce engine on their 787s. Japan Airlines and Air India, they used the General Electric Gen X engine, and there was an issue right at the beginning which delayed deliveries of the GE equipped or rather GE powered 787s. So this was delivered in January 2014, but its serial number is 26. That means this was the 26th aircraft or 787 that was made. But as I said, 11 years is nothing in terms of this aircraft. It's a very modern aircraft, as Mark said very correctly. Modern systems on board. I see the video, and obviously there has been a loss of lift. Why that has been a loss of lift is what I think everybody's going to focus on. From what I could discern from the ADSB data, the aircraft was traveling at roughly around 174 knots, which is close to 350 kilometers. It achieved a height of right around 700 odd feet. It was ascending at roughly about 900 feet per minute, which is pretty decent for immediately after takeoff. So, I mean, this has happened literally a minute or two after takeoff. The ADSB data shows that it has happened within a minute or so of liftoff. So, and you can see the landing gear is still down. So, why they have had such a major loss of lift? The General Electric Gen X engines, if you see, they power all the 777s in the world. They power the 747s and a good number of 787s. And they are a very, very, very reliable engine to the extent I think you can see India operates, Air India operates the San Francisco to India flights, and they spend large periods of time over the North Pole near the Siberian Arctic, very far away from airports. And the GE engines are rated to allow pilots to fly as far as 6 hours away from the nearest airport. That's how reliable these engines are. And, whether it's regulators or designers, they feel confident in terms of the engine reliability that it will not fail. Even if one engine fails, an aircraft is certified to at least take off. So it may not be able to maintain high altitude, but it will definitely take off, and tests are done. In fact, there are videos online where there's been a case of a Lufthansa A321 taking off from Frankfurt, and a bird got sucked into its engine and the aircraft took off. So I don't want to speculate surely there's been a loss of lift, but why that has happened is very difficult to say.
Is it unusual? Is it unusual for both engines to? I presume this would have been a result of both engines. There was a mayday call that was issued by the pilots.
Correct.
Of course, the ATC didn't have time to respond because obviously there was very little reaction time. But is
Right.
it usual for both engines to pack up?
No, no, sir. That's what I'm saying. It is unusual for even one engine to fail. That's what I was saying. The GE engines, this is based, the Gen X engine was a derivative of the very famous GE 90 series engines, which are extremely long-lived engines. I can't even hazard a guess. Maybe Mark will know how many GE 90 total family engines, but I would venture to say.
there's an accident, but ਹੁਣ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਖਬਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ। ਅਸੀਂ ਤੇ ਇਹੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਰਥਨਾ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਿੰਨੇ all those who were on board should be all right, and we should await the news. I don't think one should speculate on that.
ਸਰ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਪਾਈਪਾਂ ਨੇ ਚਾਰਜ ਵੀ ਸਨ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਉਹ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਯਾਰ ਖਬਰ ਤੇ ਲੈ ਲਓ ਪੂਰੀ।
Well, viewers, there are all sorts of course, inputs that are coming in. We don't want to really lend anything to any rumor. So we're going to continue to stick with the official record that we are being shared moment to moment by the authorities. I can tell you that the last update, and Devesh Agarwal is here with us, and we're going to stick with him. But I want to quickly go across for more updates to Payal. Payal, now we know a few things. For example, that this particular flight did send out a mayday call. The pilots did call for help. There was very little time for the ATC to do anything about it, and clearly for the pilots to also react. It was a craft laden with ATC, which explains why there was this huge ball of fire and flame that rose up into the horizon. But what are the updates you have, Payal, right now for us to share?
You know, Rahul, of course, the investigation teams are on their way, and it is for them to come out and do the entire investigation. You know, of course, a lot of talks have been doing the rounds as far as the, the efficiency of these engines are concerned. The expert that you were just speaking to, as in terms of what could be the reason as well, we do not want to speculate at this point in time. And added us, the government has also assured us that they will be giving us timely updates, from time to time, telling us what really is happening. But the man whose soundbite that you just played right now will definitely, Rahul, know a thing or two about how the aviation industry really works. Hardeep Puri has very successfully led the country as a civil aviation minister. It was during his regime that the entire merger of Air India and Vistara took place, and the Tatas took over as well. So he definitely will know a thing or two about the technicalities as far as that is really concerned. But like I said, at this point in time, the government of the day wants to make an effort to have all the hands on the deck, whether it's the rescue and relief operation that is being, of course, led by the Gujarat state government, and therefore you have the Union Home Minister, who is also a member of Parliament from Gandhinagar, which is of course the capital city of Gujarat. He's rushing there. He also, he also controls the disaster management teams across the entire country. So his being present there on ground will also give a lot of solace to the locals once he goes there and gets the situation on ground. And a short time, after which, of course, Rammohan Naidu, civil aviation minister, very young in his civil aviation ministry days, his first year just about getting complete, reaching there as well. So obviously that's going to be a all hands on the deck approach that has been put in place. Bhupendra Patel, in fact, has also spoken to Union Home Minister Amit Shah in the past, and has also spoken to Rammohan Naidu as well. So he's also marshalling on the resources, including his ministers being on ground as well. We can just hope and pray that the casualties are minimum, but we'll have to just wait and see on the numbers, because many people are being rushed to the nearest hospitals possible. All kind of help is being given, and therefore the Union Health Minister has also asked for all medical help to be rushed to the accident site as soon as possible.
Well, let me go across to Devesh Agarwal. Thanks indeed for that update from Payal there. We're also being told that the Union Home Minister is on his way to Ahmedabad. He's going to depart at about 4 o'clock from Delhi. The AIB is already sending 3 teams to go and scour the crash site for clues, etc. We were speaking to Devesh Agarwal, aviation expert, to express dismay at the catastrophic failure of the Gen X series of GE engines, which he says are very, very reliable. In fact, Mr. Agarwal said that the plane can fly on one engine. For 2 engines to fail is very unusual. Would you still stick by that statement, Mr. Agarwal, and give us a little bit of a background on this engine?
Well, one thing, please, as I said, I never ever said that there's a failure of the Gen X engine at all. I said there is a loss. From the video, we can make out that there is a loss of lift on the aircraft.
Okay.
Why that has happened is obviously going to be determined by the accident investigators. I was only saying that the GE Gen X engines are extremely reliable engines. They are fitted on more than half of the world's 787 fleet, and I can't even recall how many 787s are currently operating, but they're in the hundreds. And it's a very reliable aircraft. Please, I've never made that statement. Please, is my humble request, because this is a sensitive time, and I am a person by nature. I don't like to speculate on reasons for a crash. We have seen a loss of lift, and that is, the crew has been very experienced. It's a very experienced crew. It is a stable aircraft. What has happened will obviously be,
What can sometimes trigger a loss of lift, Mr. Agarwal?
See, you could have a loss of engines. You could have, and why did those engines lose the power? Is it a bird strike, or is it possible that you get what is called a microburst wind shear? What happens is, this normally though happens in thunderstorm conditions. You have air rising and a column of air shooting down towards the ground. And so it sort of tends to push the plane down. If you remember, Delta Airlines had a crash, if I remember, Delta 191 back in Dallas Fort Worth, which was as a direct result of a microburst right as they were getting ready to land at the airport. So we don't know why there is a loss of lift. And to be honest with you, one engine failing itself is out of the very, very far-fetched possibility. Both engines failing is an impossibility. There is obviously something else that has happened that has caused the loss of lift. These two engines are too reliable. And as I pointed out, the aircraft could have climbed with one engine. So definitely there has to be some other reason. We just don't know. We absolutely don't know. You can see the pilots have not even retracted the gear. So the aircraft is not in what we would call in a clean condition. So it's 700 feet off the ground. It's at a climb rate of 1,000 feet per minute. That means that 70% of a minute, less than 45 seconds after takeoff. It's just within 45 seconds to a minute after takeoff. There's obviously something else that has happened that has caused this loss of lift, and that's what needs to be investigated. And I really do hope that the Indian government, the AAIB, takes a lead. If you recall the way the NTSB gave timely updates, they had public briefings and timely updates, and they accepted questions from the press, or rather the media, and they gave timely information. That, I think, is what is going to be the determinant of how India and Air India is viewed by the world of
True,
aviation.
of course. I'm sure that the government will do what it has to do, Mr. Agarwal. The point of this entire broadcast right now is to give you quick updates, really, on what has transpired. So, Mr. Agarwal, just stay on with me. I want to walk our viewers through what we know. Definitively, about 2 hours back, the Air India plane, a Dreamliner, takes off from Ahmedabad airport. It is on its way to Gatwick, but the moment after it takes off, even before it could retract the landing gear, there is a catastrophic loss of lift. The aircraft collapses through the sky. You can see those pictures in the middle of your screens, into what we're being told is a doctor's hostel attached to a medical college. Immediately you see a fireball that emerges above the horizon. The crash site is a very, very thickly populated area just beyond the perimeter of the Ahmedabad airport. The flight path, directly under it are a large number of residential buildings. We don't have updates from whether there have been casualties on the ground unrelated to the passengers who have been on board. If there has been collateral damage, we have no clue about that. We can confirm that some people who are injured have been rushed to hospital. Whether they were passengers or others, we can't confirm. On your right is the immediate aftermath. You can see almost nothing is left of the plane. There is a picture of the tail sticking out of a portion of the building. What we can tell you is that the two pilots were very, very experienced and that they had issued a mayday call. Why this particular flight lost lift, we don't know. Nothing on record as of now. I want us to go straight across and listen into this soundbite from the local police authorities. Let's go straight across to that.
इंसिडेंट बनने के विदिन 2-3 मिनट्स में पुलिस, बाकी सभी बॉडियां, सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, कॉर्पोरेशन वगैरह सभी लोग आ गए थे। फायर फाइटर वगैरह स्थल पे हाजिर है। लोगों को बचाने की और रेस्क्यू करने की कार्रवाई जारी है। ऑलमोस्ट 70 से 80% एरिया हमने क्लीन कर लिया, बाकी आने समय में हम लोग क्लियर कर लेंगे। मैं सभी मीडिया के मित्रों से रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं, सभी हमसे सहयोग करें। जितनी पुलिस, उसके अलावा जितनी भी एजेंसी, आर्मी, बीएसएफ, सीआईएसएफ, कॉर्पोरेशन, कलेक्टर ऑफिस के सभी स्टाफ, सभी यहाँ काम में लगे हुए हैं। प्लीज हमसे सहयोग करिए और थोड़ी सी हमारे लिए जगह बना के रखिए ताकि हम एम्बुलेंस को ग्रीन कॉरिडोर बना के हॉस्पिटल तक पहुंचा सके। थैंक यू।
Okay, there's that new video there, and you can see the what appears to be at least one part of the plane sticking out of a building, or seems to have settled on top of the building. Very difficult to say from this angle, but certainly you can see that that might be a part of the wing, which of course bears the fuel at some levels. I'm not an expert, so I would like Mr. Agarwal to come in on this, and before that, a quick update from Payal. Payal, what can you tell us?
In the wake of this unfortunate episode which has taken place, Rahul, a helpline has already been issued by the Gujarat government, by the Gujarat state government, and also by the Ministry of Civil Aviation for anybody who wants to establish contact if they can't find their loved ones. And that is something which has been done. The government of the day is committed, like I said, to the well-being of every individual, and therefore the officials are there requesting, like you just played out the soundbite, requesting everybody not to crowd the streets, not to come to the accident site, but allow a green corridor so that anybody who needs to be rushed for medical help can be done at the earliest as well. And we've just got a tweet which has been put out by Dr. Jaishankar, who's of course a Rajya Sabha member of Parliament also from Gujarat, and he said that he's very, very deeply shocked and he's pained to learn about the flight crash in Ahmedabad, and his prayers are with the passengers and their families as well. He's currently overseas, so he's putting out that tweet expressing his deepest condolences for what has really happened.
Well, the nation in shock, viewers. We're getting a lot of reactions from the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, to several Chief Ministers of different states, to the Aviation, Union Aviation Minister, who's on a special flight from Vijayawada straight across to Ahmedabad because there is no direct flight from there, at least available as of now. On the left is the debris, remnants of the craft. In the middle is the moment of the crash, heart-sinking moment really, viewers. This flight was almost full. It had 142 passengers aboard it, two very experienced pilots who were in control and command, and they issued a mayday call. Even before the ATC could respond, this plane goes up in flames. It crashes into a hostel, attached to a medical facility where doctors are in residence. We don't know whether they were in residence at that time, how many other people on the ground in this very densely packed crash site area have been affected. To the right you can see that the obvious aftermath suggests that this was a very, very catastrophic result. Let me go across to Devesh Agarwal, Sanjay Leza, aviation expert, also there with us. Devesh Agarwal, a quick update from you on your take, and I also want to bring in right after that Mr. Sanjay Leza. Yes.
So basically, just to let you know, the world's most popular wide-body aircraft till date was the Boeing 777, and they had delivered a little over 1,500. In case of the 787, they have already delivered around 1,200 aircraft, and they have orders for at least another 1,000 plus aircraft. So it shows you how popular this aircraft is, how reliable this aircraft is. This is the first fatal accident of a 787, whether of the Dash 8, which is the earliest version, the Dash 9, which is what Vistara has, and the Dash 10, which of course no Indian airline has ordered, but it is used a lot by British Airways, United Airlines, and others. The crew, as you just rightly pointed out, very experienced crew, and Air India has traditionally had a history of the engineering on their aircraft has always been good. We hear about, the interior of the aircraft, but the airworthiness of the aircraft has never been in question at Air India. That is something that airline has a legacy of, and it is a very proud and, strong legacy and a history at that airline that the aircraft are safe. So why that loss of lift has occurred, that is where it's going to be, I think that's where the investigation is going to focus. The particular aircraft details, this was registered VTANB, Alpha November Bravo, and it is the 26th 787 ever built. It was delivered to Air India in the middle of January 2014.
Well, thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for that input and for that very quick assessment. Of course, lots of details expected, so this story will be updated. The causes and the consequences will also, of course, become clearer as the day proceeds and perhaps over the next few days. Sanjay Lezar, aviation expert, also here with us. Mr. Lezar, what do you make of these pictures? Catastrophic, sinking feeling when you look at the picture in the middle specifically. But aside from that, a very, very, very unfortunate happenstance. Not very usual, is it?
No, it's a very sad day for aviation in general and Air India in particular and Indian aviation. My heart goes out to many of my former colleagues who've probably on that aircraft as well as in the company. Prayers and thoughts with them. Very tragic, and it's pretty certain, or it appears to be that either the aircraft had major engine failure, whether it's through ingestion of birds or just stalling. But you can see loss of power and the aircraft dropping, like Devesh was saying earlier. The 787 is one of the most sturdy aircraft which has not had any fatalities or any accidents like this so far in its history. This aircraft is only 11 and a half years old. So again, a very new aircraft. Like he said also, that Air India aircrafts are very well maintained engineering wise. So that should not have been a problem. The pilots were very well experienced, more than 10,000 hours between them. So, really one is left scratching his head trying to figure out what could have been at the bottom of these two engines failing and the aircraft sinking. Also, it's rammed into a building which is a medical college and a medical college hostel. It was afternoon time, and we believe, the lunch mess must have been full of kids who were studying in that hostel. So I worry about what may have happened over there. Part of the aircraft tail seems to have, been lodged on the roof of that building, and the rest has collapsed beyond that. It's a very, very grim situation. We can see, we've already heard from sources in Ahmedabad that, almost 40 bodies have been recovered. We don't know what's happening so far. I think 11 or 12 were taken to hospital. Whether they have survived or not, we're not certain. We're still in the realm of speculation as far as that is concerned. But it's a black day for aviation in India and the world over, really.
Mr. Lezar, from what we gleaned from our short conversation with Mr. Agarwal was that the Dreamliner can fly also on just one engine. So this sort of adds another layer to the fact that there was this catastrophic failure of lift. I don't know if it was engine induced, and neither did he want to actually hazard that guess, but what do you think really happened here? A mayday call was issued, the landing gear hasn't been retracted, so it's very, very early in the flight. How would something like this anomaly gone undetected? Is it possible? Would checks have been, are checks conducted before a flight takes off for a long haul? What kind of checks are they? Can you just walk us through some of the preparatory procedures?
Well, there's no question about checks. Checks are taken whether it's a long haul or a short haul. There are detailed checks that go on by the ground engineers as well as the pilot himself. You know, either the first officer or the PIC does a walk around. Typically it's the first officer, they check. Systems are checked, so there's absolutely no question of not having been checked. You're right, so is Devesh, that, you know, the one engine could have helped it, but obviously, you know, it's clear from images. We don't have any data. We know that it took off 175 knots was the speed. We know it was a hot day, so the profile of the weather profile, takeoff profile must have been built according to that. Also very heavy aircraft, 240 passengers plus baggage plus fuel for a long haul flight to London. So it's not exactly light. Possibility of perhaps both engines having stalled is all I can say, because there's absolutely zero lift. When you look at the image that you're playing on your screen right now, it shows that the aircraft has struggled to lift off and is just not climbing. There's zero climb. And rightly, as you mentioned, the pilot did issue a mayday call, which the DGCA itself has reflected in its press statement. And before the ATC could respond, it just hit the building and, you know, went up in a ball of flames. He couldn't direct the aircraft anywhere, could not, you know, maneuver it to safety.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Leza, the GE engine, the Gen X series of GE engines are known to be very reliable.
Very reliable. They are very reliable and very, very powerful engines. So, you know, I'm only speculating that there were birds that, bird hit that happened. That's about it. I can't think of anything else. This was a major ingestion or, you know, something that caused both engines to stall. Because even in the videos that I've seen, I've not really heard the engines, you know, the togas being introduced or the power of the engines coming into force. So I really can't tell, you know, from this distance, sitting far away as we are, and we really is not fair to speculate beyond that.
True. A bird hit, could it result in this kind of an incident?
Multiple bird hits could stall the engine. It's about stalling the engine, and this is the most critical phase of flight, takeoff. As you all know, you know, landing and takeoff are the most critical, but takeoff is particularly critical because, you know, you could lose complete power as we see as happened here. And the fact that he issued a mayday call, you know, just pushes us towards that conclusion, unless there was catastrophic failure in both engines that we do not know about as yet.
Mr. Leza, we were told that the Boeing could actually fly on one engine also in case there was a bird hit to one. In this early period of flight, is that possible?
Well, I don't know if one engine would be able to lift an aircraft with, you know, at this stage of flight with all that load. But be that as it may, it's pretty clear. You can't see the aircraft bank to either side. It's obvious that there seems to be total loss of power in this aircraft. Not from one, possibly both engines. That's what I can surmise from the videos and the data that we've received so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, the data, of course, at this instance is very, very sketchy, viewers. We're only getting information that we're reeling, that has been confirmed and put out by the authorities in question, because doing anything else would be to hazard misinformation, which is not our intention at all. But the pictures are now quite clear. There are first responders on the scene, a building, as you can see on the right, there's a lot of smoke emanating from that building. Clearly, it's the ATF that is cloaked to that building. Whether there have been people inside that building that have also been affected, we don't know. We have seen bodies and being pulled out of the wreckage. We also have seen people the injured being wheeled into hospital. Obviously, we can't tell you if those are passengers or if there were people on the ground, but the scenes are extremely overwhelming. Let's go straight across to the MOS of Civil Aviation, who has spoken to our network. Let's play that out.
सर, हमसे बात करने के लिए शुक्रिया। मैं जानना चाहता हूं कि अभी फिलहाल वहां की स्थिति क्या है, किस तरीके से सरकार जो है वो मदद कर रही है।
जी, अभी तो वहाँ की जो गवर्नमेंट है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के साथ हमारे अधिकारी संपर्क में है। राहत बचाव का कार्य भी शुरू हो गया है
जी।
और हम भी घटनास्थल पे पहुंच रहे हैं। मैं भी थोड़ी देर में वहाँ पे पहुंचूंगा। माननीय एचएम सर, देश के गृह मंत्री अमित भाई भी वहाँ पे पहुंच रहे हैं। तो अभी सभी स्तर पे कार्रवाई शुरू है, काम शुरू है।
और सर, प्राइमरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन में क्या कुछ सामने आया है कि एग्जैक्टली रीजन क्या था?
नहीं, अभी तक तो जांच चल रही है। अभी कुछ हम इस पे बात करना उचित नहीं होगा, लेकिन उसकी जांच चल रही है। मैंने अभी भी मिनिस्ट्री में सभी वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों के साथ मैंने मीटिंग भी करी है, लेकिन उसका सामने आएगा एक्चुअली रीजन क्या है, वो सामने भी आएगा। लेकिन अब तो पहला काम हमारा है कि वहाँ के राहत बचाव का कार्य में हमें ध्यान देना है, पहले वो तो काम करना पड़ेगा।
मोदी जी, मुझे ये जानना है कि आंकड़े जो है कैजुअलिटी हो या फिर इंजर्ड हो, उनके अलग अलग आ रहे हैं क्या आपकी तरफ से?
नहीं, अभी तो कुल 242 लोग थे
जी।
230 उसमें यात्री थे, 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो अभी तक तो कैजुअलिटी आ रही है सामने। अभी तक कोई ऑफिशियली कैजुअलिटी हम नहीं बोल रहे हैं। सभी जांच भी चल रही है। पहले तो राहत बचाव का काम शुरू है, बाद में उस पर।
ये जो फ्लाइट क्रैश हुआ है वो रेसिडेंशियल एरिया में हुआ है, तो क्या वहां पे लोग कितने इंजर्ड हुए या वहां की कैजुअलिटी का कुछ आंकड़ा?
वही तो मैंने अभी कहा कि राज्य सरकार के संपर्क में हमारी सभी टीम है वहां पे। तो अभी सामने नहीं आ रहा है कि, लेकिन वहां भी राहत बचाव का कार्य जो शुरू है उसमें पहले तो इन लोगों को बाहर निकालना है। इनको इमीडिएटली वहां पे मेडिकल इमरजेंसी को पहले उनको वहां पे हॉस्पिटल में शिफ्ट करना है, मदद करना है।
I'm also joined by Captain Kishore Chinta, who is the Chief Pilot of Sirius India Airlines Private Limited. Thanks a lot, Captain Kishore, for joining us. I want to understand from you first, from what we know, within a minute or so of takeoff, this plane has crashed, and it has crashed in a scenario where it seems the pilots were not in control at all. They had already issued a mayday call, and they actually crashed into a building. What do you make of what could have happened?
Ma'am, I've seen the videos. The 787 has 70,000 on each engine. For an airplane like a 787 to go down in a controlled manner like that, either they've lost both the engines, and Ahmedabad per se always has a lot of birds and vultures over there, up to almost 3,000 feet. It's speculation as of now. That either both the engines have to have had some kind of bird ingestion or a compressor stall or something like that for the engines to lose power. Otherwise, with just one engine, also the aircraft can climb out at 400 to 500 feet per minute for a aircraft of that size.
I just want to understand from you, these bird ingestion issues that you're talking about, how frequent are they?
Bird ingestion are infrequent, but there is always that risk, especially in airfields like Ahmedabad and Baroda and some other airfields. Ahmedabad has historically had bird activity in and around the airfield. So I am not saying that it could have been a bird hit, but the fact that the pilots gave a mayday and we see the aircraft climb to max altitude on flight radar close to 625 feet, which would be about 425 feet off the ground. The airfield elevation is about 200 at Ahmedabad. So they did climb to 425 feet. On the aircraft, they could have engaged autopilot, but it appears to be that they've lost power in both the engines for the airplane to have come down in a controlled manner like that.
Yes, and because most experts like yourself are suggesting that even loss of one engine should not lead to a crash like this, I want to understand from you, if this was, let's say, a bird-related incident, can it take off both? Can it take out both engines like this so quickly after takeoff, within a minute or so?
It is possible, ma'am. Like the United aircraft, where Captain Sully Slumberger, went down into the Hudson. It is possible for both the engines to get affected by birds.
Okay, and looks like there would have been very little reaction time to control anything. What do you make of the situation the pilots would have faced if this, let's say, both engines went out so quickly after takeoff?
The pilots did a fabulous job keeping the wings level to minimize any kind of damage, and the aircraft's gone down in a controlled manner. They probably have done everything possible which they have been trained for a situation like this. But the rest we'll only come to know once more specifics come out from the flight data recorder and cockpit voice record.
I just want to understand from you also, because you are an expert in this field. Apart from a bird hit, what else can lead to a crash like this so soon after takeoff, where the speculation is that not just one but both engines went out? What else is a plausible reason?
I don't see another plausible reasons, ma'am. This has to be loss of both the engines for the aircraft of the magnitude of 787 to go down in this manner. And this is the world's first ever Boeing 787 crash. So that's the track record of this aeroplane. And the pilots are highly experienced, well trained. So the only probable cause would be loss of power on both the engines, just at the time they were getting airborne.
And that's extremely rare, isn't it?
It's probably 1 in a million kind of scenario. There's probably nothing anyone could have done in this case. If there was no obstacles immediately after takeoff, probably they could have glided down onto the ground to as minimal damage as possible. But with buildings over there, they seem to have landed on top of one of the under construction buildings. We do not know the damage or loss of lives on ground, but more details will be coming out as and when the DGCA Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau brings out details.
Just stay with me. Speaking of those buildings that this plane has crashed into, and I'm sure the pilots would have tried to avoid as much as possible, but it looks like they really couldn't avoid crashing into a building. We have information that the flight has crashed into BJMC, which is a hostel where many MBBS students stay. And these are some visuals also that we were running earlier of the hostel, including the canteen, etc., where there is damage because of the impact of this airline crash. And we don't quite yet know what the damage could be as far as students there in the building is concerned. But certainly news is coming in that some of them have been injured, and we hope that they get quick treatment. Praful Patel, former aviation minister, is also joining us over the phone line. Mr. Patel, thanks a lot for your time. Extremely sorry scenes that are coming in from Ahmedabad, and of course news of heavy casualties as well.
Very saddened to hear and very distressed at the same time. One of the biggest tragedies in our country, and unfortunately whatever visuals we are able to see on TV, that's all information we have. But considering that today's aircraft are very sophisticated, very technically advanced, to see a situation like this, unless we know the full details, will be very difficult to comment on that. But at the same time, whatever visuals we see on TV, our hearts go out to the passengers and their families. We don't know what is the fate of many, so I only pray and hope that most people survive this horrific crash.
Yes, the pilots were extremely proficient. Praful Patel, there are 133 casualties that we are getting latest updates on. We are hoping that some rescue operations are able to find some injured who can receive some treatment. But many international passengers on board as well, and many countries on alert now, including UK. We are told that as many as 50 plus passengers were from UK. We are also told that former Gujarat Chief Minister Mr. Rupani was on board.
Well, I've seen Mr. Rupani's name on television, and I, having been a person who's known him for many years. I only hope and pray that he is well. But at this moment, there is no information
Yes.
about any of the passengers. And
Yes.
of course, as you said, there are many passengers of different nationalities, mostly UK, besides Indians.
Yes.
And I think we really feel very sad, because at the same time, I would like to repeat that today's aircraft are very, very sophisticated. The pilots, especially who fly 787 Dreamliner, are obviously very well trained, and they are very senior commanders.
Yes.
And they've gone through many hours and hours of flying, and they would have obviously, it seems to me, whatever little I can make out from that the plane was on climb mode, and suddenly it's lost power or something else has happened, or maybe it was struggling at the time of takeoff. These are all very speculative things. But one thing is certain: if the pilot gave a mayday call, we don't know the exact time of when he gave the mayday call. Was it just immediately on climb, or
Yes, soon after
was he
takeoff, sir.
rolling?
In fact, within a few minutes, it seems this flight has crashed. It had barely reached the height of 700 feet.
This flight couldn't have flown more than 60 seconds
Yes.
because of the very fact that it's just 825 feet into the air, which
Yes.
is virtually nothing. It just would not take more than 60 seconds.
Yes.
So it is very intriguing because of the first, as I said, the aircraft itself has many backup systems. These are very fly-worthy, very safe aircraft, and 787s are flying all over the world. In fact, I would be surprised to see that probably this may be the first major incident with a 787.
Yes, actually we have been confirmed, sir, that as far as the 787 Dreamliner is concerned, this is the first major such incident that has come to light. Boeing has had some issues with grounding and all. There have been investigations whether they have, not done enough as far as maintenance and certain other activities on planes are concerned. But this certainly is the major crash of its first of its kind when it comes to a 787 Dreamliner.
Well, absolutely. A 787 Dreamliner, as I said, is being flown by most airlines of the world. And it's a very, I would say, a workhorse. It's a good aircraft. And in this case, it's flown from Delhi to Ahmedabad. So obviously it was absolutely flyworthy. Otherwise, no aircraft takes off. And pilots also, before they take off, they go through all the checks. And if they find anything missing, and especially if they are on a long haul flight like London, they would be absolutely very careful to see all parameters are fine before they would take off.
Okay.
So obviously something has gone wrong after they started their roll on the runway for takeoff.
Yes.
And in between that and the climb, those 60 seconds have been, I'm sure, very, very the reason for whatever has happened.
Yes. I do thank you for joining us, Praful Patel, the ex-aviation minister. Also reading out what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just put out. The tragedy in Ahmedabad has stunned and saddened us. It is heartbreaking beyond words. In this sad hour, my thoughts are with everyone affected by it, have been in touch with ministers and authorities who are working to assist those affected. We also know that Home Minister Amit Shah is travelling to Ahmedabad. My colleague Payal Mehta is also joining us with more on this. Payal, words coming in from Narendra Modi as well. Everybody offering, of course, their deepest thoughts to those who have been affected, including, of course, the families. Already 133 have been confirmed dead.
Yes, it is, of course, heartbreaking beyond words. That's what the Prime Minister really said. And this has happened in his hometown, which is in Ahmedabad. The tragedy in Ahmedabad has stunned and saddened everyone. And he has been in touch with the ministers and the authorities who are working to assist those who are affected. He has already spoken to Bhupendra Patel, the Gujarat Chief Minister, already spoken and asked Ram Mohan Naidu, the Civil Aviation Minister, to rush as well, and constantly been in touch with Amit Shah, another union minister in his government, the Home Minister, another son of the soil. So they've all been rushed. Maximum help needs to be assured is what the Prime Minister has also indicated in as many words as well. But a real tragedy coming to the fore as well. Many people have been feared dead in this, in this ghastly crash that we've really seen. Of course, the investigation will follow soon as possible is what the government is assured. But it's a very, very heartbreaking moment because many citizens on board Shivani were not just Indian nationals, but foreign nationals as well. But the government of the day has assured that they will get to the bottom of this and understand why this really occurred. But like I said, the Prime Minister joining the nation in expressing his condolences to what has really happened and to the loved ones.
One of the biggest aviation crashes in Indian history, and of course certainly the first concerning a Dreamliner. I want to go across to Rajesh Patani, who's an eyewitness to what happened. Rajesh जी, आपने क्या देखा जब ये क्रैश हुआ? आपने क्या देखा? आपको क्या दिखा? ये बताइए। राजेश जी, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है? आप क्रैश के वक्त कहाँ थे? आपने क्या देखा? ये बताइए। Let's try and reconnect. We're trying to get you some more eyewitness accounts, but of course visuals of the crash are on screen, and they show that the flight had barely taken off. Within less than a minute, of course, this flight has crashed. It seems the pilots have lost all control because they couldn't even deviate the flight from a what seems to be a residential area. There was in fact a MBBS students hostel that has come into the path of this crashing airline, and the aircraft burst into flames immediately upon impact. Those visuals have also been caught by those who were living in the vicinity of the Ahmedabad airport. Captain Kishore Chinta continues to be with us. Captain, I want to understand from you, in such a short span of time, if both engines are lost, how much can captains do? How much can the pilots and the crew do in such a situation? What can they do?
There's not much the pilots can do other than look for an area where they can crash land the aircraft in the safest possible manner. So in this case, they barely had any height in hand to change the direction of the aircraft anywhere. See, the most prudent thing they could have done was to keep the wings level and glide into a path which is most safe, which would minimize casualties on impact with the ground, rather than having bank on, wherein the risk of the aircraft cartwheeling and more damage and more casualties. So the pilots probably did the most prudent thing, having probably lost power.
Okay, and how does this loss of power really happen? What causes it?
Loss of power could be either due to bird ingestion, the engine compressors stalling and not producing any more thrust. It would be really unlikely for engines of such magnitude and to lose power for any other reason for a technical defect just after takeoff. It's unheard of. It's those engines with 70,000 pounds of thrust have been tested multiple times, and one of the safest engines in the aviation world. So nothing else could have caused, in my opinion, the loss of power.
So this couldn't have been any kind of technical failure, and the most plausible reason you can think of is bird ingestion, but of the kind which took out both engines.
Yes, that's, like I said, we can only speculate as of now. I haven't heard of a technical defect taking out both the engines just after takeoff ever in the aviation history.
Right. Certainly what has transpired is shocking everyone. This is already, as experts have told us, the first of its kind crash, including involving a 787 Dreamliner. And the way this crash has transpired, soon after takeoff, within a minute of takeoff at very low altitude, seems to suggest the pilots lost all control. They couldn't even divert the plane to a safer area, and it crashed immediately within a minute of takeoff. What also is concerning is that they seem to have lost all control. So both engines were out. There was a mayday call given, but agencies tell us they didn't really manage to contact this flight after that. So it all points out to things going wrong very, very quickly. Harshit,
Yes.
is Captain Kishore, I'm going to come back to you in just a bit. Harshit is an eyewitness of this crash. Harshit, आप कहाँ थे जब ये crash हुआ और आपने क्या देखा?
हम मेस में ही थे जहाँ पे ये प्लेन टकराया था।
अच्छा, तो आप स्टूडेंट हैं जो मेस में रहते हैं वहाँ पे हॉस्टल में?
हाँ, मैं कॉलेज से लाइब्रेरी से पढ़ के मैं यहाँ पे खाना खाने आया था 2 बजे।
तो फिर कैंटीन में भी वहाँ पे क्रैश हुआ प्लेन का पार्ट्स जो आप वहाँ पे खाना खा रहे थे?
हाँ, वहाँ पे सिर्फ टकराया था, प्लेन आगे क्रैश हुआ था।
अच्छा,
हमारी बिल्डिंग में सिर्फ टकराया था, इसलिए धमाके की आवाज आई।
अच्छा, आपके आसपास कितने लोग थे? कोई इंजर्ड है?
इंजर्ड इसमें ऐसा है कि जो बारी के पास खाना खाने बैठे थे उसको थोड़ा वो इंजरी हुई है, बाकी सब ठीक है।
अच्छा, कितने बच्चे हैं वहाँ पे?
खाना खाने के लिए तो यहाँ पे 50-60 लोग हम आए थे, ऊपर और नीचे दोनों।
अच्छा,
इंजरी सबको नहीं हुई है।
जी जी। और आप किस हॉस्टल में रहते हैं और कितने लोग हैं वहाँ पे?
हम अतुल्य में 11 में रहते हैं।
कितने लोग होंगे पूरे हॉस्टल में? कितने लोग रहते हैं वहाँ पे?
हम तो MBBS स्टूडेंट ही वहाँ से 1 से 5 साल तक के सभी बच्चे वहीं पे ही रहते हैं।
अच्छा, और
वो सब इसी मेस में खाना खाने आते हैं।
जी जी जी। और उस वक्त 50-60 बच्चे वहाँ पे थे जिस वक्त ये
खाने हाँ, ये खाना खाने का ही टाइम था, इसलिए वो सब वहाँ पे ही थे।
जी। आपकी जो बिल्डिंग है उससे ये प्लेन टकराया नहीं है, ये आगे जाके एक बिल्डिंग में क्रैश हुआ है, तो आपको उस बिल्डिंग के बारे में कुछ पता है? क्या हुआ वहाँ पे, क्या देखा आपने?
वो अतुल्यम 1, 2 और 3 है, वहाँ पे वो रेसिडेंट डॉक्टर रहते हैं सभी, और ये सब मेडिसिटी के क्वार्टर्स ही है जहाँ पे ये प्लेन हादसा हुआ ना वही।
तो जिस बिल्डिंग में क्रैश हुआ वहाँ पे रेसिडेंट डॉक्टर रहते हैं?
हाँ।
और उस बिल्डिंग में कितना इम्पैक्ट हुआ है, आपको कुछ जानकारी मिल रही है वहाँ पे?
ना
कोई
वो नहीं पता। नहीं पता।
जी जी। बट आपका जो हॉस्टल है वहाँ पे सब सेफ है? कुछ लोगों को इंजरी हुई है?
हाँ, हॉस्टल से ये मेस पड़ा 1-2 किलोमीटर दूर है, इसलिए सब बच्चे हॉस्टल से मेस तक चल के खाना खाने जाते हैं, तभी ये सब हुआ।
अच्छा, मेस में उस वक्त जो थे वो सेफ हैं, लेकिन हॉस्टल में जाके ये बिल्डिंग में क्रैश हुआ है जहाँ पे रेसिडेंट डॉक्टर्स रहते हैं। दिस इज ऑल्सो एक्सट्रीमली कंसर्निंग। हर्षित, हमसे बात करने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। लेट्स ऑल्सो लिसन टू सम मोर रिएक्शंस कमिंग इन।
लगातार पिछले 2-2.5 घंटे से हमारी टीम उस पर काम कर रही है। हमारी सेक्रेटरी है, DGCA है, AI की टीम में सभी लोग, हमारी विकास की टीम, सभी लोग एक साथ बैठकर वहाँ पे काम कर रहे हैं। और अभी हम DGCA, हमारे सेक्रेटरी मैं तो हम तो वहाँ पे अभी फिजिकली भी जा रहे हैं। प्रधानमंत्री जी इसका मॉनिटरिंग कर रहे हैं। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने नायडू जी से, हमारी सभी लोगों से बात भी की है, वो मॉनिटरिंग कर रहे हैं। हमारे होम मिनिस्टर वहाँ पे पहुँच रहे हैं। और मुझे लगता है कि सभी स्तर पे ये अभी राहत का कार्य बड़ी इमरजेंसी के तौर पर
ऑडिट होगा क्या? सभी प्लेन का इंडिया के ऑडिट होगा?
नहीं, अभी तो आज मुझे लगता है कि पहली बात तो यह है कि हमें इससे पहले बाहर निकलना है। बाद में सब होगा, उसकी जांच होगी, उस पर रिपोर्ट आएंगे, उस पर असल में क्या रीजन है वो भी सामने आएगा। ये आज मुझे लगता है कि थोड़ा टाइम
इन कंपनीज जो है, सारी एयरलाइन कंपनीज, क्या वो बहुत सस्ता ले रही है क्या लोगों के जान को लेकर? क्योंकि कोई भी बारिश हो जाए तो प्लेन में कुछ होगा।
मुझे लगता है कि कोई जो रियल उसका रीजन है वो सामने आने तक थोड़ा सा हमें पेशेंस रखना चाहिए।
सर, जहाँ पे प्लेन गिरा वहाँ पे कुछ कैजुअलिटी हुई है?
लगता है, ऐसा लगता तो है, लेकिन थोड़ा सा मुझे लगता है कि ऑफिशियली थोड़ा सा
बिल्डिंग में कुछ लोग रह रहे थे ऐसे भी।
सर, डॉक्टर्स हॉस्टल बताया जा रहा है,
नहीं, यहाँ से NDRF की टीम भी गई है, वहाँ पे बाकी सेना दल की टीम भी गई है। मुझे लगता है कि सभी जो टीमें हैं सभी लेवल पे वहाँ पे काम शुरुआती
All right. There is, of course, all hands on deck approach as far as the aftermath of this aircraft crash is concerned. Not only are concerned ministers moving to Ahmedabad, Home Minister Amit Shah is also expected to travel to Ahmedabad. Captain Kishore Chinta continues to be with us. This is, of course, a situation that will possibly need a lot of investigation to figure out what exactly happened. Because it seems like a crash that hasn't really been seen of this nature and also of this aircraft itself before. So much deep investigation required as far as this case is concerned. Captain Kishore, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So the standard procedure of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, which is already on site, will follow the laid down protocol for fatal accident like this, and I'm sure they will do the due diligence with all possible data that can be collected from the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder and the eyewitness accounts. I'm sure no stone would be left unturned by the AIB inquiry team. I myself have done a fatal accident investigation, and I'm sure the actual cause would come out in due course of time.
Can you just take us in detail into what exactly will go into the investigation of this crash? The black box is going to become extremely crucial.
Yes, ma'am. The flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder are manufactured to withstand crashes of this magnitude, and they will be recovered in due course of time, and they would be analyzed. All the data from the crash will be analyzed by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau team. They will piece together every single aspect of the flight path and the possible causes of why and what happened, whether it was loss of power, whether it was a technical defect. Everything will be there in the flight data recorder, and they will be analyzing that, and they will analyze the flight path of the aeroplane based on the data available, and the Mayday call will be recorded on the CVR as well as the ATC transcript of the radio transmissions which they received. All this will be correlated, and then the inquiry team will piece together their facts and figures and come out with the conclusion on
From the initial information that we're getting, we're being told that after the Mayday call, there wasn't any contact that was available with this flight. What could have happened to make it unavailable? Captain Kishore, I want to understand from you, if there is loss of power, does that mean that all communication also goes away? Could the pilots have recorded? How would they? How would we know if this was a bird ingestion? Can the investigation of the remaining parts establish that? Will there be something recorded from the cockpit that can establish that?
There are enough standbys.
We're losing that link with Captain Kishore Chinta. We'll try and get a better one, but this is of course a horrible crash that has come to light. It has really raised alarms as far as the nature of this crash is concerned. 230 passengers on board, 12 crew including 2 pilots. Already we're getting figures that 133 have been declared dead, but of course rescue operations are ongoing. There is firefighting operations that are ongoing. You can see those visuals where parts of the plane have actually crashed into the building and they have been stuck into the building debris as well. My colleague Payal also continues to join us. Payal, more updates coming in from your end. What all do we know about the efforts that are ongoing, plus who all is expected in Ahmedabad?
We've just learned that Civil Aviation Minister of State Muralidhar Mahol, the DGCA team, and of course Civil Aviation Secretary Mr. Samir Sinha, they're all being rushed to Ahmedabad also to be alongside Ram Mohan Naidu, Amit Shah and the others as well. and go into a thorough inquiry mode as far as this was concerned into the entire matter, and we're given to understand that they're currently on their way to Ahmedabad, and they will also be, joining the team and joining the rescue and relief operation as far as this is really concerned, because it's an all hands on the deck approach that Prime Minister Narendra Modi really spoke about. Shivani, it is of course a very, very tragic episode which has come to the fore, and therefore Mr. Muralidhar Mahal, the Minister of State for Civil Aviation, along with the entire team from DGCA, the Civil Aviation Secretary, and the other technical officers are also being rushed to Ahmedabad just as we speak.
Yes. This is a crash that has really, in aviation history, experts point out, Payal, that this is definitely one of the worst crashes we have seen, and also given the aircraft involved and the nature of the crash, but also in India's history, this is one of the worst aviation tragedies we've seen.
Well, absolutely. Nobody ever is prepared, for something like this as well. But what really led to this crash? What are the technicalities involved? We will only know once the DGCA team reaches there, the investigation team reaches there, and they find a black box that, Anvit was speaking about a little while ago. And only then will we know what really led to the crash, because it is pretty important to understand what led to the failure and what led to this tragedy within probably 40 to 50 seconds of the pilot, reaching out to the ATC. So obviously, all of these things are going to be there, but as of now, the most important thing is to in fact ensure maximum rescue and relief operation. Therefore, all hands on the deck. But it's the Gujarat administration, the Gujarat Chief Minister, the Gujarat Home Minister, Union Home Minister, who is also a son of the soil. Ram Mohan Naidu also currently on his way. He's a Civil Aviation Minister, and so is Muralidhar Mahal.
Updates that we're getting, Payal, also tell us that the railways have also decided to operate certain special trains to and from Ahmedabad. Anything more you're learning on that?
Special trains are going to be in place for passengers to fly either from there to Mumbai or to Delhi, because currently the airport at Ahmedabad stands shut as well. A lot of international flights are also likely to be diverted to other locations as well. So preparing for that, Ashwini Vaishnav, the Union Railways Minister, has just put out a series of tweets, essentially speaking about the kind of work that has to be done, and even if medical teams have to be rushed from nearby locations, the railways will also be putting in their maximum efforts as far as this is concerned. And again, like I said, it is an all hands on the deck approach that the Union government is adopting over here, because nothing more valuable than human lives being lost over here.
So, Payal, you're reporting that MOS Civil Aviation and DGCA Chief, Civil Aviation Secretary, all being rushed to Ahmedabad. They're about to reach the Delhi airport. But these are, of course, going to be special flights, isn't it? Because as you're mentioning, the Ahmedabad airport has been shut for civil activity as we speak. We're also getting updates that the Gujarat Chief Minister has reached the civil hospital where most of the dead are being taken. Most of the people or the dead bodies that have been taken there have I believe been declared dead on arrival. So not many survivors so far, but we're hoping for some good news as rescue and relief operations continue. But this is also going to be a huge challenge on ground. Those are some of the visuals coming in from on ground as well, Payal. Huge challenge on ground to ensure or to try to race against time to see if you can find any survivors.
Absolutely. Like I said, that no country can ever be prepared for a tragedy like this. While all hands on the deck approach, and therefore the Civil Aviation Ministry has put all the resources together. The civil administration has also put in all these efforts together. Appeal is being made to all the citizens saying that do not rush to the airport or do not crowd around these areas. Make sure that we are able to get a green corridor in place should we need to rush somebody from medical emergency. Given the fact that, there are also the building on which the aircraft really fell also had some doctors who are housed over there.
Yes.
As well, so obviously the number of casualties are likely to go up. As far as Mr. Mahal is also concerned, it is pretty possible that he might just be on that flight with Union Home Minister Amit Shah. He's also Mr. Amit Shah's, MOS in the Ministry of Cooperation. So obviously he's been rushed. He was at the Civil Aviation Ministry just a short while ago. He's just been asked to rush from there immediately, along with all the officials as well. So obviously that is something which the government of India is looking to do to make sure that maximum efforts are there on ground.
Yeah. A high-level meeting has in fact been held at the Civil Aviation Ministry. Secretary and DGCA officials have attended. All of them have now been directed to move to Ahmedabad as well. Let me also go across to Mr. Sivaraman, who's formerly with the DGCA, joining us. Sir, your first thoughts on this massive tragedy. It seems like one of the worst airplane crashes, not just in India but worldwide as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. First of all, my condolences to all those people who have lost their lives, and I pray for the recovery of any injured in this crash. It is really surprising to me also because I have seen a couple of accidents in my career as DGCA, investigated some of them, and also seen other accidents outside India. This is really strange because the aircraft had taken off normally, and at 800 feet it started going down flat, which means it had lost its lift. I mean, that's what I can guess only because I am not an expert in this area, neither am I a great pilot or an engineer. But however, it seems after the first Mayday call, the pilot could not communicate with the ATC, which means a lot of things could have happened inside the aircraft, might have been filled with smoke, or the pilot would have been unconscious. Nobody knows what has happened because normally this is a very, very fine aircraft and very few crashes like this have taken place. And that too immediately after takeoff. Even if one engine had failed, the pilots are quite competent to handle it. And that is had taken off after 800 feet, he could have very well handled it. If both the engines had also failed, it would have been possible for him to land it. But quite possible that the plane did not have any lift at all for him to maneuver it to some space where he could have landed. One should not make any wild guesses. I am reasonably certain that how they would be able to recover the black box, the CVR, and moreover, this aircraft can transmit its engine parameters to the ground. And I am sure Air would have set up these facilities. Similarly, the DFDR, which records all the flight data, they could have also been transmitted to the ground. Because these facilities have been in existence for a very, very long time. And I am sure Air India would have seen to it that these facilities are available. And in this particular case, when I contrasted with the accident that took place of the Air India 320 in Bangalore, the authorities have acted very swiftly and they have acted magnificently, I must say. All the required help has been rendered to the people there on ground, and also people have been moved very fast from the accident area. I only pray that at least some people come out alive from this accident, and I hope that the authorities will be able to find out what really went wrong. One should not miss any aspect of investigation, particularly in these very tense times. Because, I mean, I don't want to be very explicit on this matter, but every angle should be explored and every possible agency should be involved in investigating this accident.
Sir, in your experience, what follows next as far as the investigation itself is concerned?
See, as far as investigation is concerned, earlier as DGC, I used to conduct the investigation myself. Now they have got an investigation board, and I am sure accident investigation board, the DGC authorities should be fully involved along with them, and they should not be excluded from it. The Federal Aviation Authority, they have got excellent facilities. They have investigated many accidents in the world. They should be involved. The engine manufacturer, particularly the GE, should be involved. The aircraft manufacturer, Boeing, all of them without hesitation should be part of the accident investigation, because we must get to the truth of this entire thing.
Yes. No, absolutely. This is one of the worst crashes, especially given its nature as well. In aviation history, all around the world, there is much alarm, and condolences and thoughts are coming in from across the world. Captain Sam Thomas, former pilot, is also with us. Captain, your thoughts? Any thoughts on what you think could have gone wrong?
Good evening. I don't really want to hazard a guess as to what has actually happened, and while our thoughts and prayers are with the victims, what I'd like to say that with the limited evidence that we have, and we are seeing through the visuals that the aircraft has lost power on, or rather is not generating lift enough, and that can only happen when both engines are not developing power. And the reason for that can only be found out once we have the DFDR data. And until then, it's in the realms of speculation, and we understand that people are interested in knowing exactly what has happened. To that extent, we can only say that the weather seems absolutely clear, and The reason for losing power on both engines is extremely rare. If you recollect, there was an incident on the Hudson where an A320 lost both its engines due bird hit, and a lot of people are drawing that comparisons. This airplane, the 787, is a much bigger airplane, and a few birds will not be able to cause problems to a single engine, or leave alone both engine catastrophic failure. So at the moment we have very, very sketchy details, and the Aircraft Accident Investigation Board would be in a much better position to bring out these details. And at the moment, the incoming details that we have is that both the engines did not develop sufficient power.
Yes, I'm going to come to you on that issue of how both engines can go out, because that's extremely rare. That doesn't really happen, and that is really raising alarm here. But we also have a video that has been shot by one of the passengers. I'm told a British passenger who was on board before the crash. Let's just play that out.
We are at the airport, just boarding. Goodbye, India.
Goodbye.
Thank
10-hour flight back to England.
What's your biggest takeaway, Jamie?
We've done this already.
On a different thing.
All right. What's my biggest takeaway? I don't know.
Yeah, fascinating. Great. Thanks for your contribution. Okay. Yeah, my biggest takeaway is don't lose your patience with your partner.
Yeah. You're already starting to. You've already snapped at me while we're having chai at the airport. You see, you've learnt nothing.
Going back happily calm. We are at the airport, just boarding. Goodbye, India.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
10-hour flight back to England.
What's your biggest takeaway, Jamie?
We've done this already.
On a different thing.
All right. What's my biggest takeaway? I don't know.
Yeah, fascinating. Great. Thanks for your contribution. Okay. Yeah, my biggest takeaway is don't lose your patience with your partner.
Yeah. You're already starting to. You've already snapped at me while we're having chai at the airport. You see, you've learnt nothing.
Going back happily calm. We are at the airport, just boarding. Goodbye, India.
Well, that seems to be a video made by two passengers, British passengers, young men who were going back to England. They were happy about it, and just kind of points out the fickleness of life. Nobody could have really seen this coming. Captain Sam Thomas, former pilot, and Mr. Sivaraman, who's formerly with the DGCA, both on the show with us. I do thank you for your time. Captain Sam Thomas, I just want to take your thoughts once again, because our viewers will be curious to know, how can both engines go out? That seems to be the case here, given how quickly the flight crashed and the fact that the pilots didn't seem to be in any control. They didn't seem to have any communication left with the ATC. What can really cause this?
A variety of reasons can cause it, but in this particular case, what has happened, we would not know until we have the details. Now, you asked of both engine failures. It has happened just short of London Heathrow once with a 777, and that was due to fuel starvation. Now, if both the engines do not get adequate fuel, it could result in both the engines flaming out. Now, but that is a very, very, very rare scenario, and in this particular case we don't know how both the engines have failed, or indeed, we are speculating this from the visuals that we have. So it's evident to a certain extent that there is a loss of thrust on both engines, but we would not be absolutely sure on that till such time that the DFDR shows us the results.
I want to ask Mr. Sivaraman also, how long do you think an investigation into a crash like this will take? All right, I think I've lost Mr. Sivaraman. Captain Sam Thomas, do you want to just take this question? How long do you think an investigation of a crash of this nature may take? How quickly can we get to the bottom of what happened?
the DGCA would allocate this investigation to the Air Accident Investigation Board, AAIB, and they would put out a preliminary report in about 30 days. And thereafter, based on whatever information they are able to gather from the engine manufacturer, from the OEM, that's Boeing, and may take assistance of other investigative agencies, because not very many qualified investigators are there in India, and it should take about a year. That's my experience with air accident investigation, and it generally takes about a year at least.
Currently, of course, rescue operations are the chief priority, and all of the ministries concerned, including the Home Ministry and the Civil Aviation Ministry, are concerned only with that. Those are hospital visuals also coming in. There seem to be some who are injured, but we're unsure whether they are passengers who have been brought in an injured situation, or these are people who were in the buildings surrounding where the crash took place. Because the unfortunate part is, Captain Thomas, is that this flight actually crashed into buildings, and unfortunately we're getting updates that the buildings that it crashed into had MBBS doctors, resident doctors, etc. staying in that hostel.
Very tragic, very tragic. It does happen that when an airplane crashes and in a thickly populated area, there would be collateral damage on ground as well. It's very, very unfortunate, and unfortunately that is the nature of the beast, and very little we can do about it except extend the hospital services to the injured and minimize whatever damage that has already occurred by providing proper medical assistance timely.
The area around the airport perimeter was, as the visuals themselves show, densely populated. Clearly there were some facilities there as
well. A very, very, very unfortunate happenstance. Not very usual, is it?
No, it's a very sad day for aviation in general, and Air India in particular, and Indian aviation. My heart goes out to many of my former colleagues who've probably on that aircraft, as well as in the company. Prayers and thoughts with them. Very tragic, and it's pretty certain, or it appears to be, that either the aircraft had major engine failure, whether it's through ingestion of birds or just stalling. But you can see loss of power and the aircraft dropping, like Devesh was saying earlier. The 787 is one of the most sturdy aircraft which has not had any fatalities or any accidents like this so far in its history. This aircraft is only 11 and a half years old. So again, a very new aircraft. Like he said also, that Air India aircrafts are very well maintained engineering wise. So that should not have been a problem. The pilots were very well experienced, more than 10,000 hours between them. So, really one is left scratching his head trying to figure out what could have been at the, at the bottom of these two engines failing and the aircraft sinking. Also, it's rammed into a building which is a medical college and a medical college hostel. It was afternoon time, and we believe, the lunch mess must have been full of kids who were studying in that hostel. So I worry about what may have happened over there. Part of the aircraft tail seems to have, been lodged on the roof of that building, and the rest has collapsed beyond that. It's a very, very grim situation. We can see, we've already heard from sources in Ahmedabad that, almost 40 bodies have been recovered. We don't know what's happening so far. I think 11 or 12 were taken to hospital. Whether they have survived or not, we're not certain. We're still in the realm of speculation as far as that is concerned. But it's a black day for aviation in India and the world over, really.
Mr. Reza, from what we gleaned from our short conversation with Mr. Agarwal was that the Dreamliner can fly also on just one engine. So this sort of adds another layer to the fact that there was this catastrophic failure of lift. I don't know if it was engine induced, and neither did he want to actually hazard that guess, but what do you think really happened here? A mayday call was issued, The landing gear hasn't been retracted, so it's very, very early in the flight. How would something like this anomaly gone undetected? Is it possible? Would checks have been, are checks conducted before a flight takes off for a long haul? What kind of checks are they? Can you just walk us through some of the preparatory procedures?
Well, there's no question about checks. Checks are taken whether it's a long haul or a short haul. There are detailed checks that go on by the ground engineers as well as the pilot himself. Either the first officer or the PIC does a walk around. Typically it's the first officer, they check. Systems are checked, so there's absolutely no question of not having been checked. You're right, so is Devesh, that the one engine could have helped it, but obviously it's clear from images. We don't have any data. We know that it took off 175 knots was the speed. We know it was a hot day, so the profile of the weather profile, takeoff profile must have been built according to that. Also very heavy aircraft, 240 passengers plus baggage plus fuel for a long haul flight to London. So it's not exactly light. Possibility of perhaps both engines having stalled is all I can say, because there's absolutely zero lift. When you look at the image that you're playing on your screen right now, it shows that the aircraft has struggled to lift off and is just not climbing. There's zero climb. And rightly, as you mentioned, the pilot did issue a mayday call, which the DGCA itself has reflected in its press statement. And before the ATC could respond, it just hit the building and went up in a ball of flames. He couldn't direct the aircraft anywhere, could not maneuver it to safety.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Leza, the GE engine, the Gen X series of GE engines are known to be very reliable.
Very reliable. They are very reliable and very, very powerful engines. So, I'm only speculating that there were birds that, bird hit that happened. That's about it. I can't think of anything else. This was a major ingestion or, something that caused both engines to stall. Because even in the videos that I've seen, I've not really heard the engines, the togas being introduced or the power of the engines coming into force. So I really can't tell, from this distance, sitting far away as we are, and we really is not fair to speculate beyond that.
True. A bird hit, could it result in this kind of an incident?
Multiple bird hits could stall the engine. It's about stalling the engine, and this is the most critical phase of flight, takeoff. As you all know, landing and takeoff are the most critical, but takeoff is particularly critical because you could lose complete power as we see as happened here. And the fact that he issued a mayday call, just pushes us towards that conclusion, unless there was catastrophic failure in both engines that we do not know about as yet.
Mr. Leza, we were told that the Boeing could actually fly on one engine also in case there was a bird hit to one. In this early period of flight, is that possible?
Well, I don't know if one engine would be able to lift an aircraft with, at this stage of flight with all that load. But be that as it may, it's pretty clear. You can't see the aircraft bang to either side. It's obvious that there seems to be total loss of power in this aircraft. Not from one, possibly both engines. That's what I can surmise from the videos and the data that we've received so far.
Yeah, well, the data, of course, at this instance is very, very sketchy, viewers. We're only getting information that we're reeling that has been confirmed and put out by the authorities in question, because doing anything else would be to hazard misinformation, which is not our intention at all. But the pictures are now quite clear. There are first responders on the scene, a building, as you can see on the right, there's a lot of smoke emanating from that building. Clearly it's the ATF that is cloaked to that building. Whether there have been people inside that building that have also been affected, we don't know. We have seen bodies and being pulled out of the wreckage. We also have seen people being wheeled into hospital. Obviously, we can't tell you if those are passengers or if there were people on the ground, but the scenes are extremely overwhelming. Let's go straight across to the MOS of Civil Aviation, who has spoken to our network. Let's play that out.
सर हमसे बात करने के लिए शुक्रिया। मैं जानना चाहता हूं कि अभी फिलहाल वहां की स्थिति क्या है, किस तरीके से सरकार जो है वो मदद कर रही है।
जी, अभी तो वहाँ की जो गवर्नमेंट है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के साथ हमारे अधिकारी संपर्क में है। राहत बचाव का कार्य भी शुरू हो गया है
जी, और
हम भी घटनास्थल पे पहुंच रहे हैं। मैं भी थोड़ी देर में वहाँ पे पहुंचूंगा। माननीय एचएम सर, देश के गृह मंत्री अमित भाई भी वहाँ पे पहुंच रहे हैं। तो अभी सभी स्तर पे कार्रवाई शुरू है, काम शुरू है।
और सर प्राइमरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन में क्या कुछ सामने आया है कि एग्जैक्टली रीजन क्या था?
नहीं, अभी तक तो जांच चल रही है। अभी कुछ हम इस पे बात करना उचित नहीं होगा, लेकिन उसकी जांच चल रही है। मैंने अभी भी मिनिस्ट्री में सभी वरिष्ठ अधिकारियों के साथ मैंने मीटिंग भी करी है, लेकिन उसका सामने आएगा एक्चुअली रीजन क्या है, वो सामने भी आएगा। लेकिन अब तो पहला काम हमारा है कि वहाँ के राहत बचाव का कार्य में हमें ध्यान देना है, पहले वो तो काम करना पड़ेगा।
मोदी जी, मुझे ये जानना है कि आंकड़े जो है कैजुअलिटी हो या फिर इंजर्ड हो, उनके अलग अलग आ रहे हैं क्या आपकी तरफ से?
नहीं, अभी तो कुल 242 लोग थे
जी,
230 उसमें यात्री थे, 12 क्रू मेंबर्स थे। तो अभी तक तो कैजुअलिटी आ रही है सामने। अभी तक कोई ऑफिशियली कैजुअलिटी हम नहीं बोल रहे हैं। सभी जांच भी चल रही है। पहले तो राहत बचाव का काम शुरू है, बाद में उस पर।
ये जो फ्लाइट क्रैश हुआ है वो रेसिडेंशियल एरिया में हुआ है, तो क्या वहां पे लोग कितने इंजर्ड हुए या वहां की कैजुअलिटी का कुछ आंकड़ा?
वही तो मैंने अभी कहा कि राज्य सरकार के संपर्क में हमारी सभी टीम है वहां पे। तो अभी सामने नहीं आ रहा है कि, लेकिन वहां भी राहत बचाव का कार्य जो शुरू है उसमें पहले तो इन लोगों को बाहर निकालना है। इनको इमीडिएटली वहां पे मेडिकल इमरजेंसी को पहले उनको वहां पे हॉस्पिटल में शिफ्ट करना है, मदद करना है।
I'm also joined by Captain Kishore Chinta, who is the chief pilot of Sirius India Airlines Private Limited. Thanks a lot, Captain Kishore, for joining us. I want to understand from you first, from what we know, within a minute or so of takeoff, this plane has crashed, and it has crashed in a scenario where it seems the pilots were not in control at all. They had already issued a mayday call, and they actually crashed into a building. What do you make of what could have happened?
Ma'am, I've seen the videos. The 787 has 70,000 on each engine. For an airplane like a 787 to go down in a controlled manner like that, either they've lost both the engines, and Ahmedabad per se always has a lot of birds and vultures over there, up to almost 3,000 feet. It's speculation as of now. That either both the engines have to have had some kind of bird ingestion or a compressor stall or something like that for the engines to lose power. Otherwise, with just one engine, also the aircraft can climb out at 400 to 500 feet per minute for a aircraft of that size.
I just want to understand from you, these bird ingestion issues that you're talking about, how frequent are they?
Bird ingestion are infrequent, but there is always that risk, especially in airfields like Ahmedabad and Baroda and some other airfields. Ahmedabad has historically had bird activity in and around the airfield. So I am not saying that it could have been a bird hit, but the fact that the pilots gave a mayday and we see the aircraft climb to max altitude on flight radar close to 625 feet, which would be about 425 feet off the ground. The airfield elevation is about 200 at Ahmedabad. So they did climb to 425 feet. On the aircraft, they could have engaged autopilot, but it appears to be that they've lost power in both the engines for the aeroplane to have come down in a controlled manner like that.
Yes, and because most experts like yourself are suggesting that even loss of one engine should not lead to a crash like this, I want to understand from you, if this was, let's say, a bird related incident, can it take off both? Can it take out both engines like this so quickly after takeoff, within a minute or so?
It is possible, ma'am. Like the United aircraft where Captain Sully Slumberger, went down into the Hudson. It is possible for both the engines to get affected by birds.
Okay, and looks like there would have been very little reaction time to control anything. What do you make of the situation the pilots would have faced if this, let's say, both engines went out so quickly after takeoff?
The pilots did a fabulous job keeping the wings level to minimize any kind of damage, and the aircraft's gone down in a controlled manner. They probably have done everything possible which they have been trained for a situation like this. But the rest will only come